Welcome back to IGN Live at Gamescom 2018. I'm James Duggan, and joining me is Al Bickham of Creative Assembly to give us a look at Total War 3 Kingdoms. Now, we're about to kick into a cinematic, but first, can you set up what we're about to see?
Yeah, sure. So you're about to see our first kind of exposition of the campaign map for Total War 3 Kingdoms. And what we've done is we've set up a kind of scenario that you might experience in the campaign game, which is then going to lead us into the battle we're about to see as well. So I guess we'll get started.
China is divided. It is a rich and fertile land where harmony once ruled and may yet again. But now, the once proud capital of Luoyang lies in ruins. And all along the Great Yellow River, a terrible conflict rages. Dongzhuo, the tyrant who once held China in his iron grip, is beset on all sides. A coalition of warlords has formed to defy his rule. The wise Chancellor Cao Cao, the noble Liu Bei, and the great General Sun Jian have combined forces to thwart him at every turn. However, it is a marriage of convenience. Even now, the cunning Cao Cao looks beyond the fall of Dongzhuo to his own future conquests. He has planted a spy in the court of his ally, Sun Jian, south of the Yangtze River, and watches for his opportunity to strike. Lady Sun, Sun Jian's noble daughter and one of his finest generals, leads her army in the east. Around her, she feels 1,000 unknown eyes watching. There is a rustling in the trees and a dark secret in the mountains. The trap is set.
Okay.
Welcome to Total.
All right, we're going to be taking a look at the ambush of Sun Ren, and I have to admit, I'm a huge Total War Warhammer player and fan. I love what the fantasy aesthetic affords in terms of readability and unit variety. What are you taking from that series and bringing into a historical setting?
Well, I think a differentiation of the characters is one of the absolutely key things with the game, because characters are very much the cornerstone of what we're trying to build with Total War 3 Kingdoms. I mean, it's all based on the records of the time, the actual history of time, but also the romance of the Three Kingdoms, this 14th century historical epic that dialed these characters, real characters in history, up to 11 in terms of their achievements and their deeds and things like that. So character differentiation, character design is very important. You'll see it in the UI as well. You see it in the user interface in our unit cards, for example. We're going for a very clean, sort of modern but Chinese-inspired aesthetic with a lot of the user interface and a lot of the design just around the game. So in the unit cards, for example, you'll see that you can see that the model in the background, but what's really highlighted is the weapons they're carrying. So you can immediately at a glance see, oh, these guys have got halberds, these guys have got spears, these guys have got kind of bows. So that's our kind of drive for readability.
So no more dragons and trolls, but what are we working with in terms of our arsenal?
Well, plenty of the kind of rock, paper, scissors of ancient warfare that you might sort of expect, but here's where characters make a big difference in battle, especially in romance mode, because we've got these two modes. We've got the classic, the records mode, which is more like a traditional Total War game. You know, battle victory is more decided by your disposition, by your army composition, and how you actually use it in the field. Whereas in romance mode, characters make a massive difference in battle. You know, they come in with a bunch of special abilities, which may be attack abilities, support abilities, defense abilities, stuff that can transform the fortunes of the troops around them.
I think Total War is a little bit opaque to get into at the start, but once you've figured it out, it offers a lot of really fun and unique gameplay, and you mentioned that rock, paper, scissors with the cavalry, the ranged, and the melee. Now that we have a clear look at the UI, tell us what we're seeing in this new UI that I have to say is much crisper and cleaner.
So a number of things, really. Like I said, the unit cards have been quite heavily redesigned to fit our sort of vision, our artistic vision for the game. But you'll see as well that James over here who's controlling the battle live right now, has got two characters, and each of every army can be made up of up to 3 of these characters, and they act as generals for their own retinue. And you can see the unit cards that are attached to them are their retinue. So these characters bring, you know, a specialized group of troops with them. They can recruit from a specific kind of pool. So if you've got a warrior character, they're going to bring more kind of melee, more offensive characters. Whereas Swen Ren, her brother Swen Chuan here, is he's a commander. That's his character archetype. So he gets access to more defensive, solid troops like spearmen and elite spearmen and things like that. And you can have up to 3 of these characters in a single battle, each of whom can bring a retinue of up to 6 units. So you can still have a full-size army up to 21 units, including the characters. But it just gives you a new level of versatility with what you can do, because you've got specialist characters with a specialist force of troops with them. So I think, you know, both traditional Total War players and new players will find something interesting there, because your composition of forces and the way you use them is really, really based around those characters.
And these 2 characters in particular have a very, very interesting dynamic. You mentioned that they're siblings, and that is actually echoed in a gameplay capacity. So tell me their unique ability.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably wise to tell you a bit about characters in whole, because that really feeds into how these 2 work. So characters in Three Kingdoms, it's like I said, they're the cornerstone of the game. They're what we're building the game around. And that includes their relationships, that includes their personalities. And, you know, these are things that you don't necessarily always have control over. With characters in previous Total War games, you could take a general, for example. They gain experience. You'd throw skill points into different trees and make them particularly good at a key set of skills. Whereas these guys, you'll still be able to skill them up in different directions, but they've got personalities of their own, which you kind of discover over time. They have their own desires and their own needs and their wants. There's stuff that will make them satisfied or dissatisfied in life. So if you had a particular character in your faction, a governor, say, and you're playing a very warlike game, you know, you've got border wars all over the place, they might be a sort of driven by playing peacefully, by being peaceful in the world, and they might not like that, so there's a possibility that their satisfaction could drop, and they could therefore leave your faction. So you've got characters that could actually, for the first time in a Total War game, move independently in between different factions and sign up with a different faction leader. And alongside that, characters can also build up strong friendship bonds. They can build up friendships or rivalries with other characters. So 2 characters who, say, fight in the same army time and time again might sort of start building a bond of brotherhood between them. And that bond, and just as we've got 2 siblings in battle here, they've got this bond because they're close family. So when they're in a battle, they support each other. Their mere presence gives them kind of mutual set of buffs. Which give them, you know, bonus armor and bonus morale and things like that. And if one of them goes down, and the bond of friendship or the bond of family is severed, the other one is going to go absolutely mad with grief, and has a period of time where they'll essentially go berserk.
I absolutely love that in terms of a storytelling through gameplay mechanics kind of motif. There's also this other interesting dynamic in Three Kingdoms, and that is, of course, duels. You've talked about characters and how important they are. How do duels affect this dynamic?
Well, duels affect it by becoming focus points for the battle at large. Duels are a way to cut a key enemy character from the herd and away from coordination with his own army, with his own forces. It's also a way to take another character out of the game. But you've got to be sure, you've got to be really sure that duel is going to work. You've got to be sure that your character is going to be able to take that other character down. So there's still a level of sort of battle planning that you need to do even with duels. So, you know, you're fighting one hero, say melee style hero against another melee style hero. Soften them up first. You know, hit them with as much arrow fire as you can. Use your any characters with ranged special attack abilities to soften them up before you go into that duel, because if you lose your character, I mean, duels can go 2 ways. You know, well, a number of ways. You can win them, or you can lose them, and then the loser is disgraced and runs off the battlefield, or the loser can be slain outright by a powerful hero. So I don't know if you've heard of the character Lubu, who is, you know, the greatest warrior of the Three Kingdoms period. You throw any of your warriors into battle with him, you're probably going to lose them, because he is a legend. You know, he's a living legend. So being wise about how you do these things and planning for them is definitely the name of the game.
And here we go. As far back as I can remember, looking at Total War, just the sheer amount of units on screen, but also the fidelity of the individual units. And here I think that's exemplified to the 11th degree. It is just so cool to see these guys duke it out in a very well animated duel. And of course, this is the combat portion of the game, but lots changing in terms of the world as well. What's going on there? Are assassins still around? Are specialists still around?
So we're not focusing on agents this time because we're building so many facets into new dimensions into all the characters that they can all do. There's a number of things all those characters can do. Actually, one cool thing to talk about is probably spying and how spies work, because certain characters, not all characters will go and spy for you. If you've got a character who's sort of super honourable, he probably wouldn't like that sort of thing, and he's probably going to refuse if you ask him to go and spy for you. But certain possibly less scrupulous characters may agree to do that. So I'll give you an example. If you've got a good general in your army, and you ask him to go and spy for you, and he agrees. So what happens is he leaves your service, and as far as all the other factions are concerned, you've parted ways. He's left for reasons of his own, right? Nobody knows the real reason that he's left, right? And he becomes available in other factions' recruitment pools, and that's really useful because especially if you've got a good character you send out to spy, he's going to be an attractive hire for a prospective faction leader, right?
That is really, really very interesting. We have to wrap up soon, but I do want to ask you one more question. For folks at home who may be taking a little bit of a break from the series, or just the Total War folks, Total War Warhammer folks who are like, there are no orcs in this. What do you think is most exciting about Three Kingdoms?
I think it's the characters, because they bring a new dimension of gameplay, extra dimensions of gameplay to both the campaign. They change the campaign completely. And in battle as well, I think for players who enjoyed Warhammer, enjoyed the characterization, you're going to see a lot of this in battle.
Characters, duels, a new aesthetic. There's a lot to look forward to in Total War 3 Kingdoms. Al, thank you so much for joining me. And there's a lot more to look forward to at Gamescom 2018. So make sure you don't go anywhere here on IGN Live. We'll be right back.